here, but it has all of a sudden exploded with a bunch of new developments that have come out just today. So let's go ahead and dive into them here in this video, starting with the elephant in the room, which is GoldHEN. Has a new release, version 2.4B18.8, released by Sistro. So this version adds a new patch menu, along with a couple of other features that we'll quickly go over. Now, Sistro has also left a note here saying that these updates, along with more, coming soon. So there will be more updates to GoldHEN soon. They are all laying the groundwork for my upcoming PS5 project. So yes, there is going to be some kind of GoldHEN version for PS5. We've heard about this in the past. It is still in the cards. It is still being worked on behind the scenes. But for now, we're taking a look at this new PS4 release. So all you got to do is go ahead and download it from Sistro's Ko-Fi page. Then all you need to do is extract the goldhen.bin file over to the root of a USB drive that's formatted in exFAT format preferably. Simply rename that payload to payload.bin. Make sure you have view show file name extensions enabled in your Windows Explorer. That way you'll get the full file name with the extension, and you can make sure it's renamed to payload.bin. Then you can plug that USB drive into your PS4, and when you run the jailbreak, whether you're using the older lapse Blu-ray jailbreak or you're using the latest Poopsploit jailbreak with the Blu-ray exploit, then all you got to do is run your Blu-ray disc, and then it should run the jailbreak. You might have to press X to run it, depending on which version of the Blu-ray exploit you're using. But once it runs the jailbreak and loads GoldHEN, it should detect the version of GoldHEN you have on the USB drive, and then load that one instead of the older version that you have on the disk itself or on the hard drive. And then it will automatically copy that payload from the USB drive to the internal storage, so that you will not need to have that USB drive plugged in future. When you go to load GoldHEN, it should be properly updated. So if we open up the GoldHEN menu, you can see the menu looks a bit smaller because one of the main menu options has been removed, which is the Klog settings. That's now been removed, and the Klog server has been implemented into the server settings. So now everything is nice and neat. You have less main menu options, but you haven't lost any options from the previous version. It's just been integrated into the server settings instead. But if we go into the plugin settings, you can see we have the option to update the patch archive, which will download the latest patches. You can change the patch source. It automatically downloads online from the GitHub repo, but you can also change it to install patches locally that you have stored in a zip file on the USB drive or on the internal hard drive of the PS4. You can also change the patch selection. By default, it will install all patches that are available, but you can also change it to only install patches for games that you actually have installed. For actually applying these, we need to obviously update the plugin archive to download the latest plugins. And then from there, once you have that, you can go ahead and enable the plugins loader, and then enable the game patch plugin, and make sure you have updated the patch archive to download all the latest patches, at which point you can then apply the patches for your games. So before the game is running, you can apply a patch by pressing the options button, and you'll have the GoldHEN patch menu. So patches need to be applied before the game is launched, because the patches are applied on game boot. So the option will only be available when the game is not running. And when we select that option, all of the patches that are available for that game and game version will appear here. So for Bloodborne, we can enable things like skip intros, disable motion blur, enable the 60 FPS patch with delta time, and also will enable the 720p resolution patch so that we can push those higher frame rates on the game. And then once you've got your patches applied, you can simply exit out of that menu and launch the game. And you can see that the patches are applied on launch. So after we launch the game, we get the 4 patches have now been applied. It will automatically skip the intros to get us straight into the game. So we load up the game faster, and you can see that the 60 FPS patch has been applied there in the bottom right hand corner. So that's how you apply the patches. Now the cheats menu is still available, so when the game is running, when you press the options button over the game, you will see that the patch menu has been replaced with the cheats menu, so that you can enable and disable your cheats, because cheats are applied when the game is running and patches are applied before the game is launched. So before the game is launched, you'll have the patch menu, and when the game is running, you'll have the cheats menu instead. So that is how that works. We now have the option to update the cheats, patches, and plugins all from GoldHEN, as well as being able to apply them all from GoldHEN as well. Whereas previously we had to use homebrew applications like the PS4 Cheats Manager to be able to download and apply your patches. A couple of other smaller updates. The FTP server has also been improved to improve the speed when transferring files, and these fixes are essentially the same fixes that were being applied to the PS5, but that FTP improvement was also released for the PS4, and it looks like the FTP server within GoldHEN is essentially being updated to implement those improvements. So that's what's going on there. We also have an improvement to the bin loader server, which is now the payload server instead, as it is now loading ELF files as well as bin files, and they are properly implemented. So that's also been updated there. And there's also been a fix for 12.02 firmwares where the remote play patch was not working properly on that firmware, and that has apparently been fixed now as well. So those are your updates there to GoldHEN. So we have another couple of topics. There's been a couple of new HackerOne bug bounty reports. So this is where hackers can report vulnerabilities in the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 to PlayStation, and they will essentially patch those vulnerabilities, and if those vulnerabilities are severe enough, they will award the hacker with a bounty reward, a certain amount of money for their trouble. And we sometimes see new jailbreaks release from this because the hackers can actually request that that vulnerability gets disclosed. So if you stay on an old enough firmware, when that bug is disclosed, it can potentially lead to new jailbreaks further down the line once it's disclosed. So we've got this new report 24 hours ago from Slidey Bat, where he received a $10,000 bounty. And even beyond that, GoldHEN has also apparently received a $10,000 bounty for one of their reports. So GoldHEN shared a response from PlayStation about the report, where they rated the severity of the report as high and awarded them with a $10,000 bounty. Now, because these reports have come out, that usually means that system software updates are also coming out at the same time, and that's exactly what happened here. We got a new system software update for the PS4, updating it to 13.04, and we also saw a new system software update for the PS5, updating it to 12.60. So whatever these vulnerabilities are, they may pertain to both consoles, and this is typically what happens, is that the system software will get updated to patch the vulnerabilities that were reported, and then shortly afterwards, those reports are then made public on HackerOne, or at least, obviously, they're not actually disclosed, but it's made public that those reports have occurred and that the bounties have been awarded, because they want to make sure, first of all, before they actually, close the report, they want to make sure that the vulnerability is properly fixed in the publicly released update that was designed to patch it. And once that's been confirmed, they then close the report, and that's why we see the reports pop up here on HackerOne around the same time that system software updates are released. Sometimes these vulnerabilities can get made public early, as other hackers in the scene or security researchers basically figure out how it's done, and then they reproduce their own version of it that can then be used. Or sometimes you just have to wait for the actual report itself to get disclosed if the person who reported it actually requests disclosure. Now, at least one of these reports could also pertain to another Blu-ray based exploit of some kind, as Zeko has actually shared a comparison between the recent PS4 update 13.04 with the file bdj policy impl.java from a 13.04 console and the 13.02 version of the same file, and we can see there has been some changes implemented there between these two versions. So it's possible that whatever they patched was again some kind of Blu-ray based vulnerability. Zeko also retweeted this brief explanation from the MaxU, saying that the BDJ bug where jar paths are improperly validated, so using a particular way of framing the file path, it could trick the runtime into treating an external jar as if it were in lib/ext and grant it all permissions. The patch trims the path at the .jar before canonicalization, so sandbox escape via path confusion. So if this is the case, then this potential vulnerability could lead to a userland exploit through, again, a Blu-ray disc working up to firmware 13.02. And of course, we could chain that potentially, as the Blu-ray exploits are viable to be chained with the kernel exploit from the flow up to 13.0. So it could be chained with the kernel exploit on 13.0 to be able to jailbreak up to that firmware using a Blu-ray disc. Although hopefully the PlayStation Vue exploit should be out long before then, and that theoretically should be a better option for 13.0 because it does not require a Blu-ray disc. However, of course, if there's ever any kernel exploit up to 13.02, then this could be a viable entry point for that. Now, we also got an update on the PlayStation Vue exploit showing that the 13.0 kernel exploit appears to have been successfully implemented. And this comes to us from Dr. Yen, who has shown, first of all, a screenshot showing the PlayStation running with the exploit enabled on firmware 13.0. And they've said here, thanks to Earth Onion, Cow, UFM42, and others, I'm one of the first few to get to jailbreak on 13.0. The success rate of the poopsploit is not great though. And then he also says that the release is still set for next month. So we'll still have to wait for next month for this to get released. I'm sure the next work will probably be trying to see if they can do any kind of stability improvements on poopsploit to get the success rate higher than whatever it currently is at the moment. As they say, it's not great right now. But, you know, being able to load it at all is still a lot better than not being able to load it. So, you know, hopefully they might be able to get the stability cleaned up a little bit before release. There's a few other updates that have been going around, but those are the main ones I just wanted to quickly cover here in this video. So hope you guys enjoyed this one or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll hopefully see